development or your support. So try a couple different things, maybe interact with the code. You will be utilizing resources like for Robot 3D, get ideas or examples. But make sure any of those examples, you take ideas and you build on them and make it better and you make it your own.
I also go along with what Clint saying. The 6-inch wheels, we're going to be using 6-inch wheels. We 4-inch, and the minute we tried to move up over and onto the little ramps that are there, a real issue. So don't get swayed into that. Please listen to what we're saying, and we recommend the 6-inch wheels as well. Same thing that Clint was saying about prototyping. It's not that you're making something that's going to be end all, but you have to prove things out so that you know that you're going in the right direction. We use prototyping to either validate or falsify things that we've been working on. So use that prototype for the kids to be able to see what it's going to look like. Is it going to fit in package? Does it work with the game pieces like Clint was saying? But really to prove out a concept.
And to add more onto that, be sure that your prototype that you're working with taking into consideration the different environments those totes or containers might be in. If you're picking up the totes from the human player, place a loading station, it might be different than getting totes from the land. Placing the tote onto the scoring platform might be different than placing a tote onto the step where you did the cooperation. Sure that when you're running your test, you don't just treat it in an ideal situation where nothing's around it or it's not the same environment. A real good example would be interacting with the toad on a tile floor or something other than carpet, because the field will have carpet on it, and the way that the toads and canisters move on carpet tile is very different.
Very different. On that note, too, anytime you can practice your robot driving on carpet, do it, because you really want to simulate the best competition-like experience whenever you do start moving that robot. I want to talk about something, and Clint, I know you said it, and I want to update this. Transportation configuration. Correct me if I'm wrong, Clint, but when the robots are put on the field, they're not allowed to come out with like 5 different pieces of robot and then assemble them on the field. It's supposed to be in the transportation configuration up until it gets on the field. At that point, you can kind of open it up or release it, but you're not attaching pieces on the field. Is that correct?
I'd say yes and no. It's not specific like what I'm going to probably say it, but if you were to have, say, a couple arms attached to your robot, you could pull a pin, disconnect arm, and then you would ideally put it inside of the robot. I don't know how they're going to handle if you carry those arms separately, then you're putting it, like I said, inside of your robot.
Okay.
You need to, even though you look into that, maybe read some of the Q&As on that. I haven't read anything specific. The idea of the intention is to bring up one robot, 2 students, lift up the robot, set it onto the field, and then you put it down or attach a few arms, but not like you're going to be constructing a sky crane.
Right. I guess my biggest thing was I know some rookies have asked the questions about whether they could assemble their robot on the field, and I think it's real important for people to understand they only have 1 minute, and if they are bringing in additional pieces, they're not going to get assembled and get it, in its proper location prior to time. So you really need to have, if additional pieces, it all needs to be contained, I guess, in that row. He told me, and the guys and I were talking about it, it has to be within the transportation configuration. So you can't have a robot in 4 pieces as you're walking down the hallway because it has to fit within that configuration.
If you have 2 like big appendages, let's say, that program to the side of your robot, you could pull those appendages off when you get to the field.
Right.
And attach them, you know,
Differently.
say they were vertical appendages. As you're doing, you can pull them off and attach them horizontally if you wanted to.
Right, but they go on the field as one robot.
Right, yeah, you pick up your chassis and everything basically has to go with it.
Okay. All
Kind
right.
of how I interpret
And
it.
I just want to make sure that, because for rookies, I don't think that was really clear the first couple weeks when we were talking about it. And I know that some have the question.
I guess my personal opinion is make sure you have some hinge, some kind of small pin. You should not be really bolting things on. If it is a bolt, it should be like 1 bolt or 2 bolts, like 15 bolts to assemble. You're not going to have a lot of time to set up these robots. So you can be good to maximize setup time and make it minimize your setup time. Some of our shuttering teams were used to making our robot pass other appendages that stay in the robot and actually go inside the robot in the middle of a match. Where the new teams don't have that experience and don't know what.
On that note too, I was thinking for rookies, if you're afraid that your robot is starting to come out of package, kind of folds up. I'm thinking of like, the sports chairs that kind of fold together, and when you get out there, it's going to open up. If you need to, use bungee cords to just keep it together so that it's within package, because then when you release the bungee cord, it can go back into its natural state if that could help you out. So I just want to make sure that we tapped into that, because the transportation configuration is going to be a big deal if people don't pay attention to it. Kind of like in the old days, it was bumpers. I think this year it's going to be the transportation configuration. If you have a robot that's moving, hopefully you do. If you get Clinton or myself, and we'll see what we can do to help you. You've already started prototyping what you're going to do with the rest of the robot. Keep in transportation configuration we're talking about as you're doing it, but now you need to program. It's really important to start small with the program. I would suggest for all rookies to download the default code and get the robot moving with the default code. One of the things that we did, and I was trying to simulate a rookie experience this past weekend. I had 3 brand new programmers on my programming team. So they obviously the last 2 weeks had absolutely no clue what to do. So with 3 the tutorials that we created years ago, and basically what I had them do is I had them do all 3. I started with a 9th grade girl. She was the first one to go through this process. And then she downloaded the code. It worked. And she was done. She was to make an autom. And all it did was dead reckon. It made the robot move forward. Then it was forward to right. Eventually, she got 3 automs done on Saturday, all self. Now, I want to emphasize a couple things here. Number one, this is a brand new girl to my team who doesn't have any robotics experience, and I don't know how much programming experience she's had, but was able to take some of these tutorials and do this. And by the end of at the end of 4 or 5 hours, she actually was able to call, all clear, and then run the auton so the robot actually moves. If programming is scaring you, especially our rookies, if programming is scaring you, don't let it scare you. Let them do it. Let them run with it. If you need help and you're having trouble, let us know. But start with the default code, and then we will put in the links to the 3 tutorials used. You could look at these if you like them. There's tons more out there. But we were using and she got it done. And so now she's helping the other 2 boys, one of which is a senior on our team who's done pretty much almost every sub-team. This is his first time programming, but now she's teaching him how to do it, which is pretty awesome.
Grade 5 and 14 is in the conference call. we'll do is, grab everybody's names right at the end of the call. So you guys go ahead and sit down right at the end of the call. We'll go ahead and grab everyone, because I think we got quite a few people who haven't signed in yet.
Great. Questions on programming or questions on anything that we've covered so far, the transportation configuration, prototyping, you know, your kit of chassis, any questions you guys have?
Programming, where can that be found?
I think it comes installed with LabVIEW. Open up a new FRC project, and do the default code, and then you'll go through and declare what your motors are. I could find some examples and try to include that in the notes.
Okay, I'm not even sure, so I can open up WebEx. Are you want me to? Are you for application? Yeah, when you do the LabVIEW install and make sure you do the FRC updates, when you open LabVIEW, I'll show you some projects. There is I forget exact words of it, but it's something like robot drive project or robot something project, I think. And that's default code that you can load. And all of that, don't go in and change anything inside of it. But you go out of the tree, and there's like build, I don't know all the names of everything, but some like build instructions or build configurations. And you like right click and you build, and then you do run at start. Doing that will download, if you are connected to the global Rio, it'll download the default code and get you started and get you moving. Okay, is that the dashboard project? No, not the other one, above that. It's a Rio project. Global. Oh.
Yep.
Okay, that's like first time, okay. And then once that works, then you start diving deeper into that code and see the samples of how they attach joystick, axes, or buttons to the ports on the Robo Rio, so you can start making, different actuations. There's some resources on, I think, WPI. I have a where it shows some tutorials on how to get started and start working with LabVIEW. And they'll drop the link as well. Great, thanks, all. 534 is a quick question. Hello?
Yep.
I have a mentor that is version T++, and the kids, so we have kind of dissension in the ranks. I know we minutes you guys talked about going with the strength of your mentors because kids come and go. Any suggestions or any tutorials on C++?
They're out there. I guess we've been using LabVIEW, so I haven't really focused on looking at plus stuff. You guys use LabVIEW too, or what are you using for programming? I don't know.
I'm also a person. We have used LabVIEW in the past. This is spring. We actually switched to Java this year.
Okay.
In the summer, our students participate in the VEX robotics program, and that's pretty similar to C++ and ACTV. So we have a little bit of experience with that, but I'm not really the robot lady. Like I said, we have used LabVIEW every single year since the original Rio has come out, but we decided to switch to Java this year just because what works better for our team. So I mean, yes, we're going to have more people at competition who know LabVIEW because there's a volunteer there whose job is to go around and help people with their LabVIEW. Generally speaking, they work for National Instruments and the software that National Instruments uses, so they're going to be more versed in it. To help, there'll be somebody there, but there's also a lot of other teams who will help you with C++. Do what's best for your team. mind that there may not always be someone there to help you if you decide to go with C++.
Group was that there was more support and pre-programmed applications VIs for than there was for C++. I think you get a bigger head start when you turn into a different language when you have more experience. Brady, I'm back on the line, by the way. Thank you.
I have it for Team 27, and I know Jay already mentioned this. You know, LabVIEW, we made a specific decision a few years ago to do this because LabVIEW is also industry standard, blah, 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 and we wanted our kids to get involved in it. But right now, you know, our kids are up, it's up and running, that they're able to do this. And so with, you know, the languages, you really got to understand the language, where this one, I know our resources, you know, I have a mentor that's doing this every year, and so I let the kids do it, and the kids do it. And I don't know just how I feel about it.
And it's kind of what Brandy was saying is, so the Rio is built by National Instruments. LabVIEW is National Instruments software. So again, to get probably the most support or the most native support for the controller through LabVIEW. No problem. On the website, if you go on FRC under resources, there is a programming section talks about C++, Java, and LabVIEW programming. If you quick look at that and do kind of a comparison between the three, it's just for you.
All right, there are robot questions. We'll move on to the other robot questions.
Yeah, Randy, 5664. What is the actual size of the robot that we're allowed to have?
Fine. So,
Sorry, repeat that question again?
what the dimensions, allowed dimensions?
Transportation dimensions.
Transportation configuration is 28 by 42 by 78 inches tall.
28 by 42 by 78, you said?
Yep. The other thing to remember about, because also that goes into, you know, in line with it is you have to weigh 120 pounds or less and show up weighing 150 pounds. And that's excluding the battery, that's right? It's not included. That weight is external to that. So the weight is about 15 pounds. So when you have the robot and battery, it'll weigh about 130.
And also remember that these are maximum dimensions. That does not mean that you have to be 28 inches by 42 inches by 70 inches. That is the maximum.
And in my opinion, suggested that you try to stay maybe half inch to an inch under, so that you're in situations where something's sticking out and measuring, and it's like, hey, you got to shrink this, you know, a half inch or an inch because this pole sticking out or this finger sticking out.
Well, this is Reed Schick from 5703.
Ed Reed.
Where do you get the 6-inch wheels?
Okay, it's asking where do you get 6-inch wheels? Five from eMark would be one resource.
Yeah, so in terms of resources, eMark is usually a great resource if you're using kit apart chassis type stuff because the way their hubs, timing belts match with their wheels. I'm looking towards some other 6-inch wheels. Is the Robot Space, which actually I happen to find a company there that we sell robot parts and accessories. The third choice would probably be Vex Pro. In that Vex Pro sells, we sell it the robot.
This is 5-0. And regarding motors, currently have 2 motors on our robot. And we've been told by people that there should be 4. Do you have any advice on that?
What are the wheels? You said something about the wheels?
It has 2 tuners on the robot, 4.
The standard in years past has always been to put 4 motors on it. Do you have 4 this year? Not necessarily, because you're not going to be in any pushing matches with other robots. I'll have the weight to put 4. It doesn't put 4. Well, in your situation, you might be able to remove 2 of those motors, move them somewhere else, or use that weight somewhere else to get an advantage. I don't think yes or no.
Yes, thank you.
This is, with, 5664. When you say transportation dimension, are we talking something different than the actual operation of the robot when it's in a game? The dimensions there, is that different?
The game configuration, there's really no limitation on the game configuration. Be very cautious on that statement. There is no requirement on the length and width. However, there's always a limit of 78 inches. Your robot can never extend above 78 inches, both idle and during robot transportation. So the purpose of that dimension is basically to get you through the doorway. So you can extend out within the 42 by 48 inch. So be careful about it, and that's where we were talking about having arms that you pin together or swing up or swing down.
Thank you.
That's not a system. What's the purpose of the camera?
The camera, this is or could be used for the tape that's located on the yellow cooperation bins. You could use that in autonomous mode to those bins if you'd like. That we've traditionally used the camera. Some teams also use the camera to give point of view driving assistance. So kind of during the match as a live feed. An actual vision task and finding something. I'm not sure if there's any real other applications this year.
If you're going to work with the camera, and my personal opinion, for new and young teams, is to me utilize it as to give you a point of view, like Jason said, from the robot. You might be on the other side of the scoring platform, and there's 5 stacks, 6 sides, and you keep your robot. The options: 1, don't move and don't knock those over. 2, you might be able to have some type of camera to kind of get a bird's eye view of the edges of your robot so that you can avoid those and moving around with robots that you can't see. Be very careful about trying to use a bunch of vision, because you might spend a lot of time on it when sometimes it's better off sending it on because you know where everything's set. Vision, where vision is important, is where it's random and you don't know where it's going to be set up. However, this year, the field always starts in the same configuration. The totes are always in the same place. The containers are always in the same place. And you don't need to have that randomness to be able to have the robot decide where to go because of that. That helps. Very much so. If you to another question that I made, where do the robots start? The robots this year can really start anywhere but 2 locations. That zone, you cannot start in the auto zone, and you cannot start in the land. So you are on the field. most are probably going to start near the starting stations or the setup station, where the yellow and the canister are. Most people are going to start behind those. However, you go into the competition and other people have different autonomouses, they might ask you, hey, we have an autonomous that does a 3-tote stack. We have to try to have you start between the auto zone and the landfill zone and go auto zone there rather than being back by the totes, because we need this whole space to do the 3-tote stack.
Cameron, I want to get back to that for a minute too. When we have competition, if you see me, you'll find that I'm not real tall. I'm only 5'4". I'm on the field with these big tall guys like Clint, and I can't see anything. He just looks over my head and can see the field. What nice is we've had in the past a camera on the robot, so when we get into places we can't see, it's because my eyes will shift down to the controls and see what the robot is seeing. And I may call out to my drivers that way, or sometimes my drivers' heads will actually drop down to the screen to see what they can see. I'm afraid once people start stacking totes, your vision is going to be severely impaired in the middle of the field. And so if you have to go and get something and you can't see, it will be to have a camera in front so you can at least see, as Clint was saying before, kind of having a little camera out there so you can just see where it's going. It is difficult and it's tough on drivers to be able to understand that, but we can go through that. You get that opportunity to see something that you could otherwise.
Yeah, and also on that note, when you're trying to strategize and maybe think of, this year I've been calling it, when you're trying to figure out your routine, because that's really what teams are going to have this year. They're going to have a routine. Every time they're going to go here, pick up that tote, pick up this tote, stack it on there, move here, put it there. When you're trying to think of that routine or that act, if you will, that view and where you're building that might affect getting us to other tote containers or accessibility on the field. So you might actually want to make sure you maybe start from the outside near the field walls and work your way inward, rather than starting on the inside where everyone's going to travel and work your way out. Take that into consideration.
I have another question for the experience.
Any other questions about mechanical, electrical, or programming before we move on to
Yep.
team management?
Yep, Reed's got one.
Let's hear it.
We are utilizing a windshield wiper motor that we're prototyping on. I was just wondering if you could recommend a relay that works well for controlling that.
Using the windshield wiper motor for prototyping. I believe you can only use the relay. I don't think you use third-party relays. Correct me if I'm wrong, Clint. I believe only the WebEx spike is a relay you can use for that.
The bike we have some others laying around. We weren't digging the rules yet to figure out if those were or not.
Yeah, everything motor control either has to be controlled via a spike or via a speed controller. One of the speed controllers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more questions? You've
That was
got,
on me the whole time.
we figured.
I was actually answering the question. I was on mute. I agree with that. It's like any of the Talons, Victors, or Jaguars, the approved speed controllers. My person, I highly recommend going with a speed controller because you can or send analog signal to have different speeds on that. So it's not just off at 100%. It can vary between 10% on to 50% on to 100% on full reverse.
Yeah, the on speed controllers that we're using with the motors, is there something else that's better for the small motors? Or
We'll read, sir. Go ahead, read. Yeah, I'm muffled.
Okay. We're using the tail on speed controllers right now for the motors. Are there speed controllers that are better for the small motors?
Is there a difference in speed controllers depending on a large or a small motor? I'll say no. I think they'll perform equally well with.
There's two speed controllers that are small in size that are legal here. They're the Victor SP and the Talon S. I think it's, I forget the last nomenclature on that. About 2 inches long by about 1 inch tall. They're a little bit smaller. They have the same performance as the same that you got in your kit apart. And same performance as Victor's, the old Victor 888. But those are the only things that are allowed to control any motors that are on it. Whether they're big, small, they have to go through those types of approved speed controllers.
But the performance difference between and after, you know, one being better suited for one type of motor over another.
Specific, but application specific. The new Victors are PWM, and the new Talons, not the Talons that you got in your kit, are cam-based. Also have a few digital inputs that you can use for a closed system. I can't explain on here. You want to have a limit at the top of your elevator and at the bottom. Actually wire those directly into the speed controller, so when you hit those limits, it will no longer go forward. When you hit the bottom one, it will no longer go back. So that difference performance, cost, but it does on the motor side for those speed controllers. If the SR controllers are discontinued, I saw that in the web. Seems to be on the option right now. SP. The Victor SP is $20 cheaper than the new Talon. Okay.
The Talon support both CAN and PWM, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do. But like I said, they are $20 more. And really designed if you're trying to go with CAN, is really what it's designed. But it is 2 wires, at least 2 or 3 wires that can be used for PWM communication.
Okay.
Like what someone here on the phone just said, is the Jaguars, the old Jaguars, the old Victor 888s, and the old Talon FRs, all have been discontinued. They're not making more of them. These 2 options in the future are, for right now, are going to be the Victor SP and the Talon, I think it's FRX.
Yep.
Those are kind of going to be the only 2 speed controllers around. So if you're a new team investing in new speed controllers, I personally highly recommend to get the newer ones rather than trying to find the old.
Mm-hmm.
Any other guys? I hope this is helping.
More if I could speak in if we have the time.
Sure.
This is Steve Kester from Team 5603. Question, could you suggest maybe 3 progressive strategies for the autonomous mode for a new team? What's the simplest expectation motion that we should try for, and then what's maybe a couple progressions beyond that?
I'll hit the first one. Because that's.
Come on, I want the first one.
No, I get the first one, Clint. The first one would be drive forward and get into the auto zone, or the auto zone. Out of the way, that would be the first one, because if your robot is there, you are worth points. Go ahead, Clint, take it away.
And remember the auto points for robots. All 3 robots have to perform that action to get any point. If you're the one on the team that doesn't, you don't get any points. You can do it. You're better off for making it into the elimination. The caveat I want to put on top of Kyle's is your first one move from the between the land zone and the zone. Don't do one by the driver's station, right? It's a little bit simpler. You're going to be out of people's way who are going to be wanting to manipulate and interact with those containers
could you say the path again, please?
Between landfill and the auto zone, you want to start your robot there. So you're standing at the driver's station looking at the field. You want, school platform, you basically want to be right to the right of that. And this is, you know, I'm going to want to be to the right of that and move into the auto zone. Because the reason for that is you're away from those containers and totes that people want to interact with. I'd say the next one would be, you know, away push the container into the zone. So you would ideally stand right behind the container, move the container into the auto zone, because hopefully you can have two other teams so you can move those containers into the auto zone. I'd say the third one would be maybe move a container and a tote at the same time into the auto zone. Because everyone has that same routine where everyone can move one container, one tote into the auto zone and the robot. There's the ability to get with it 4, 6 points. As an alliance, if you all have that routine. Okay, mission alone, can that be performed in open loop with just a time over speed scenario, or is that you play coders? Yes, it can, and coders are better because depending on your battery, your performance can change. If that battery might not go as far. If you have a brand new battery, it might go further. If you can use an encoder, that is better. If all you have is time, then try to make that work. Remember when you're touching the containers and the totes, you need to move that into the zone and then a small adjustment backwards so you're no longer touching those containers or totes at the end of all time. So it's nothing there, it's making sure you're not touching.
I did what Clint said. I fully agree with all of those. It can drive, if your robot can move an Auton, Clint said, and you guys may not have picked this up, but he said it will get you closer in the elimination rounds. If I don't care really how good you are, if you can't do something in Auton, then you may not be necessarily any help to me whatsoever. So we need to make sure that you are moving, and like I mentioned earlier at the very beginning of this call, I have a brand new 9th grade girl that could get a robot, a bot, moving and around in a circle, and then, you know, went out, turned right, and got way back to home base, and then she did another one that went out and is backed up a little bit. That's, if that is the best you can do, but you can do it every single time, and you can do it from different places on the field, so you could get out of the way of, you know, like Clint's team, he's going to have this massive, incredible Auton. Then he's going to love to have you as his partner because you're going to be able to achieve some points for their team while he can do what he needs to do best. So it's
great when you're at competition. You might have some of your alliance partners who might be paired up with you in the next match, or maybe even 5 matches later, going over and asking questions. Hey, do you have an autonomous? And you might be like, no, we never got around to asking that. Someone might offer, hey, we would be willing to maybe help you get this autonomous to make it so you move into that zone. In my opinion, don't treat that as kind of like, well, we want to make sure we do it ourselves. The teams are looking out for their own self-interest. Don't get me wrong on that aspect. But they do also want to help and teach you how to do that so that as you go to the other districts, you know how to tweak that and make it work for you. So don't be surprised at your first event if someone's offering or saying, hey, we'll be willing to help write you this routine. There might be some teams that literally come with copy-paste bills that they put on a robot and say, hey, put this on, if you have this gear ratio or this drivetrain set up, it'll get, you know, where we would like you to be. You know, so surprised by that.
You know, after we've taken codes from our teams when they've said, hey, we could do this, and we're like, oh, we'll use that code, and we put it on. You remember your alliance, you may not play with them until 2 o'clock in the afternoon and at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're checking on you. They want you to be successful just as much as you want to be successful. So, like Clint said, don't poo-poo help, because we all just want everyone to go out there and best we can. We want it more exciting. It's no fun if the robot's not moving. All right.
15 minutes left in the class.
Yep.
Okay. something, I was riding to 664, mentioned something about the front, about the side of the wheels. When scraping going over the going platform, punch wheels, were they scraping in the middle or as they approach?
If you look at the scoring platforms on the ends, there's this 20-inch end cap that have these angles that meet. That is where you have the highest problem, and it's because your belly pan or your back rails actually are what scrape, not the wheels themselves, but the pan and the rail system is based on that. And you might actually get high center where you can't move until someone pushes you off it. So if someone would say, hey, we don't have a drivetrain yet, what should we go with? And they were to ask me, I would say 2 traction in front, 2 in back, 4-wheel drive, you do a 6-wheel drive. That's my choice. Two back, only 4 wheels. Don't do a 6-wheel drive. 5-wheel drive is typically there's a drop center, and what you'll do is you'll get rocking back and forth. So your 4-inch tip chassis that you have right now, set on the ground and it'll actually wobble back and forth. That is by design. That's not that you guys made a mistake or anything like that. So if you have 6-inch wheels on that, you're going to still teeter totter. This year's game, you really don't need to have more than probably 4 wheels on the ground at any given time.
On the agenda, we had under team management scouting, and I think we're not going to have time for scouting tonight, so we will put that off for next week. Anytime we will go ahead with the team management tasks. First one would be team uniforms. Brandy, if you want to go ahead and hit that.
Big thing, especially if you are attending a week 1 or week 2 event, you need to get on top of ordering your team uniforms. Most places you need about 2 weeks to produce shirts for you, depending on where you go, but I would say give yourself at least 2 weeks for your shirts to come back. So some things that you want to make sure that you have on your uniform are your team name and your team number. Make sure that your team number are very visible on your shirts, because at competition, you will not be called by your team name, you will not be called by your school name, you will be called by your team number. So the teams are going to identify you. So please make sure that that is printed on your uniform. Make sure that you are ordering at least 1 for each student for each day. So sessions run Thursday night, all day Friday, and all day Saturday. So you're going to make sure that each student has a shirt for each of those days. Clinton and I were once on a team where each student owned out 1 shirt. And by Saturday, you did not want to be around those guys.
Yeah.
It gets hot in some venues, and quite a lot just supporting you.
But I just interject here. As long as you have 1 for all day Friday and 1 for all day Saturday, you should be good. It's nice if you can get 1 for Thursday, but Thursday is not as imperative because the judges aren't there. It's time. Our kids do because we have years worth of shirts and we just wear old ones. But just make sure that for Friday and Saturday you get fresh shirts. You guys are going to have the pleasure of smelling just unique sense of body sweat and smell ever at a competition for people who are in the pits, because they never leave and sweat, and it's in a gym, and it's just amazing. So, as Brandy said, a new T-shirt is very good for Friday and Saturday. On note, too, look for and see if there's a local business that might donate the shirts, or maybe if you can get the shirt relatively cheap, they might do the screening. Or also, hint, look at high school and find out if they have any graphics design at the school. They might have a vinyl machine that they could actually print the shirts for you. You could probably get shirts for about $4 a piece if you go through like Michael's and you get shirts, and then you can have the high school do it for you. But if you call and you tell them it's for a school program and you tell them you're starting up, you'd be amazed at what they will donate to you and for you, especially because it's for kids. kids. You're going to pay for the shirts is kind of an interesting thing. You'll have to decide whether or not you've got the money in your team budget, and if not, find out what the cost of it's going to be, and you may have to just charge the kids per shirt. If that's the case, maybe they want to buy one for Thursday too, but we really ask for if people want to sponsor the team, maybe they get the uniforms, and the name can also be on the back of the uniforms. We talked earlier about the uniforms, making sure that your team name, logo, number on the shirt, but that's also a perfect time to recognize your sponsors. The back of our shirts look like, you know, a NASCAR car. We have all of our sponsors, up to our $500 sponsors. We have a different event that we do our under 500 sponsors on a shirt, but for this, we do specifically our $500 and above sponsors all go on the back of our shirt. Anything, Andy?
Pros and cons of different color shirts for each day?
Well, I mean, the pro is the kids know what color, what day. I get a con, and I've heard this multiple times, but the con is judges will complain. They complain to us when we did it that they can't find the team. Their eyes get hooked, and their head gets trained on a certain color. So if you choose that, then they can't find you. And teams every year, we do a regatta, and we mix the colors around. We don't care what color the regatta shirt is. And we usually wear a regatta shirt on Thursday, and everybody thinks that we've changed our colors because they're used, and they don't realize it's us. There is an identity associated with the color of your shirt. So if you do choose to change colors, realize that you might confuse the judges. It is nice to not have all the same color shirts, so that's, you know, that's a con of having them all. It's also real simple because, you know, a kid, if you change the colors, you're going to have a kid wear the wrong color. It's just, they cannot follow directions. So they will wear the wrong color shirt on one day, and then they're always backwards on the next day. But it's real important that you all look alike, that your name and your numbers on it, and really recognize your sponsors. If you want them to sponsor you again next year, you've got to recognize this year.
And as far as getting sizes and stuff, there are two methods that you can go about doing this. Method number one is you go and order some shirts. I'll order, you know, figure you have 30 students on your team, order 10 small, 10 mediums, 10 large kids. And let the students go in the box and pick out what they want. On team, we try to cut down on the extra number of shirts that we have and make sure that students actually have shirts that fit them. So we actually go and collect sizes from each student, and we just use a Google form to do this. I actually put a link into the document for our Google form that we use. It takes 2 seconds to set up, and then exports it into Google, into an Excel spreadsheet for you.
You do, sorry, Brandy. You do want to make sure that your mentors also are dressed like your students. Some teams might put polos on a mentor, and the kids are in T-shirts. We keep everybody in T-shirts. Our mentors eventually get polos, but that's for special events, but that's not for competition. For competition, we go in as a team. We look like a team. You don't have special coaches' uniforms. We are all one team. And besides that, it really cuts down on the cost. But you also need to think about your parents and family members. You could either have them dress in color so that they're in the same color as you guys, or you could see if whoever's doing your shirts, if they would do something a little different, or you could do the same thing. I mean, you can, we've done everything. We've gone from just the front, t-shirts with just the front. We've done t-shirts with the front and the back says fan club, you know, of the 27 fan club. And then we've also not done shirts at all for parents, and they just come in, you know, in gold. If you want to have a different color shirt, then you're not going to look like a giant mass in the stands. The more your parents and your families match the color of the team, the bigger will look in the stands, and the more impressive it is. I got to be honest with you, it's really impressive when you've got a lot of family there cheering people on, and everybody has the same color. It looks like you brought an army with you. Anything yet, Brandy?
Pretty much covered this. The next important thing on the agenda is plans. I know it seems like competitions are a long ways away. The next couple weeks are going to go by fast. And some schools require advance notice for the, off of school or turning in permission slips. So the thing that you guys need to be doing, if you have not already done it, is find out what your district's policy on travel and paying for things are. Your district might have a 30-day policy on cutting checks for paying hotels. So, for example, our school, if it's just a where we don't have to miss school, we have to ask our principal. If there's days off school, we have to fill out a special form, or if it's overnight, we have to fill out even a different form. So you talk to your school and find out what the policies are about that. So transportation, whether a school is going to give you a bus or as parents, and if so, you have to have background checks. So that will be included in the notes for you guys to go through around the checklist and make sure that you think about all of these things, but they are things that you guys need to start looking into.
When you are reserving your hotels in Michigan, make sure that you let them know that you're tax exempt if you're with the school, and to your finance office, get a copy of the tax exempt form, because you will save a lot of money by not paying taxes. That goes with your uniforms as well, and even meals. Whenever you have to buy something as a team, you should tell them in Michigan, because it doesn't work outside of Michigan, that you are tax exempt, and you will save a lot of money. I want you to also real quickly on the district policy on payments. Everyone's different. I know Clinton and Brandy do it differently than we do. You need to ask if your district has a charge card program. For my district, I have a credit card now that long story short, they did not have anyone available to order things we needed when we needed them ordered, and they didn't have anyone available, obviously late at night like now. So they gave me a credit card, and a certain allowance on my card matches what I have in my account or less. But they pay it off every month. They give them all the receipts. I sign off on it. They approve what I do, and it's very simple. And I am very fortunate. District might want you to pay for it and then submit for reimbursement. That's tough, especially if you don't have the money. And I know that some people, like Clinton, have a team card that they use, and then that way their team gets cashback points, and then they can put that money into, more supplies for the team. So check into the district's policy plan for payments. Brandy's not kidding when she talked about permission slips. If traveling overnight, we need to have board approval. So our paperwork's going to the board. It is every other week, so every 2 weeks I have a window to get it approved. I have to make sure I get it in before that. So if you have not, if you're overnight somewhere and you have not even looked into this, please contact the principal and find out what you have to do. It'd be a shame if you could not travel because this was an oversight. And she's also correct about carpooling and the legalities. Anyone who my students is going to go through what they call an ICHAP process, which is a background check in the state of Michigan. And in fact, anyone who is going to be alone with students has to get a fingerprint here at Clarkson Schools. So all my mentors had to be fingerprinted, and all of my mentors are ICHATted. So you check into that and make sure it's easiest if you can get a school bus, because then you don't have to worry about all this other stuff. You want to check into background checks and fingerprints too, because I hate to have all of a sudden it's competition day and then they say, well, these kids can't get in this car because they've never been background checked. Again, hotels, you may know you're tax exempt. I also want to mention it doesn't hurt to reserve the hotel, and then give yourself find out what the cancellation policy is. So in case if you reserve now, you at least have something. If something happens and you can't stay the night, you can always cancel, as opposed to when then trying to find something, because the prices will go up and it's much harder to find. But, we're gonna give you again these notes. I know we're running out of time, but, find out what permission slips the kids need to have, and those guidelines. Also, food, you have to figure out food. We can talk more about this next week. We have moms that help supply and make sandwiches and pack lunches, so we can keep, basically our meals to feed 50 people is about for lunch is $125, I think, to like seriously feed them with fruits and vegetables. They've got it down to a very, very simple $2 or $3 a head. That's a wonderful savings because we travel with about 50 people. And Brandy has a great list of stuff in our notes that we're going to share with you. Behavioral expectations. We actually have, Team Rush has the kids sign a contract how they're going to behave, and if they misbehave, they can be sent home at the cost of the parent. Brandy's also got some examples that she's got in the notes for you. We're going 100 miles an hour. Are there any questions on any of this stuff right now before we go even further? Are you there? I hope we didn't hurt you this week. All right, so breaking ferociously to get the notes up and ready for you guys. If we don't have any other questions, we meet again next week. We'll get the agenda out to you. In the meantime, we need to get anyone who has not signed in yet, we need to know your team number and your name, please. What number?
With your team number first and your name. 15565 and April Turner.
650, name is Paul Marisi.
Thank you all. Anyone else on the line?
55, Wagner.
Wagner, 5745.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else on?
473, David Price.
Anyone else?
5774.
Anyone else? One that's also on the WebEx too, event.
Okay.
Who's doing attendance?
In a document that's shared as called 2015 rookie team listing conference call attendance, shared on it.
Okay. Thank you. I just didn't know.
And one last reminder to all of the team that are on the call, if you guys need help, do not hesitate to ask. We actually had a team that was here and spent most of Saturday and Sunday with us this weekend. So we can Claire's on the call right now. And we are glad to help. If you guys need help, we are more than glad to help you. So please don't hesitate to ask. We would rather see you guys come out and ask for help than get to a competition and not be able to operate because you didn't ask for help. So please do. We're returning emails and phone calls, so just don't hesitate to contact us if you need help, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
The conference will end in